Claire Whitmore never believed silence could be louder than rage. Until the day she signed her divorce papers without a single tear. No screaming. No accusations. No bargaining. She simply slid the Mont Blanc pen across the page, closed the leather folder, and whispered, "I hope you get everything you deserve, Graham." Her husband, now ex-husband, didn't even look up from his iPhone 15 Pro. Graham Whitmore, CFO of Argent Capital, a man worshipped by Wall Street and feared by his subordinates, just smirked as if she were an inconvenience he had finally taken out with the trash. "Good choice," he murmured. "Let's keep this civilized. No drama, Claire. No drama." If only he knew what was coming. Outside the courthouse, Manhattan traffic roared like a river of steel. Claire wrapped her coat tighter around her, the cold wind slicing at her cheeks. She felt invisible, just another woman discarded by a powerful man who had already replaced her with a younger, shinier model. The world believed Graham had moved on with Aubrey Lane, a 26-year-old PR specialist whose selfies outside luxury hotels were more famous than her actual work. Claire had been painted as the dull, aging wife who couldn't keep up. She saw the comments, the whispers, the cruel headlines. She swallowed the humiliation until it formed a stone inside her chest. But no one, not Graham, not Aubrey, not even Claire's former friends who had quietly drifted toward Graham's wealth, knew the truth. Claire didn't sign the divorce papers because she was weak. She signed because something far darker, far more dangerous, had been placed on her shoulders. Something she intended to return. And she wouldn't return it quietly. The moment she stepped into the street, her phone buzzed. A single message. No name. Just a number she hadn't seen in 5 years. "I heard what happened. Are you safe? N.H." Claire froze. Nathan Hale. A man she barely knew. A man she never expected to hear from again. A man whose world made Graham look like a child playing dress-up. Her heart pounded as memories surfaced. One conversation, years ago. One act of kindness she never understood. One moment that had nearly changed her life. Why was he texting her now? Before she could type a response, a black Mercedes S-Class glided to the curb beside her. The window lowered, and a driver in a crisp suit leaned out. "Miss Whitmore? Mr. Hale sent me. He said you might need assistance today." Claire's breath caught. Assistance? Or rescue? She hadn't even processed the shock when her phone buzzed again. If you get in the car, everything changes. But if you don't, he wins. Her pulse hammered through her entire body. She glanced back at the courthouse. Graham standing on the steps, arm around Aubrey, laughing, kissing her forehead, performing for the cameras. And Claire realized something with terrifying clarity. Graham thought she was finished. He thought she had no power. He thought she had no allies. He thought the divorce was the ending. He had no idea. It was the opening scene. She placed her hand on the Mercedes door handle, and that was the moment the ground beneath Graham Whitmore's perfect life began to crack. Bold twist. She pulled the door open and froze at what or who was inside. The car door clicked shut behind Claire, sealing her inside the quiet, leather-scented world of the Mercedes S-Class. For a moment, she simply sat there, her breath tight, unsure whether she had just made the boldest decision of her life or the most reckless. The privacy glass muted the chaos of Manhattan outside. Inside, everything felt painfully calm, too calm. Across from her sat a woman in her early 50s, elegant, sharp-eyed, dressed in a tailored navy coat. Not Nathan Hale. Not even close. "Miss Whitmore," the woman said softly. "My name is Diane Mercer. I'm Mr. Hale's chief counsel." Chief counsel. Not assistant. Not secretary. This woman carried power the way some people carried perfume. Claire's stomach tightened. I don't understand. Why would Nathan Hale send his lawyer for me? He barely knows me." Diane's expression didn't change, but there was something almost sympathetic in her eyes. "He knows enough." It wasn't an answer, but Claire didn't have the strength to push further. Not now. Not today. Her phone buzzed again with news alerts, lighting up the screen. Graham Whitmore and new partner spotted outside courthouse. CFO celebrates divorce with glamorous PR star. Sources say ex-wife emotionally unstable. Claire swallowed hard. Emotionally unstable. The words hit like a slap. She had said nothing publicly. Not one interview. Not one statement. Yet somehow, Graham had already shaped the narrative. And people believed him. Images flashed across her phone, Aubrey tucked under Graham's arm, her smile bright and triumphant. Graham looking relaxed, confident, victorious. It was as if Claire had never existed. A sharp ache radiated through her chest. 7 years of marriage. 7 years of sacrifices. 7 years of carrying him through his darkest failures, holding his career together, smoothing over every crack in his facade. And he erased her with a single whisper to a reporter. The car eased away from the courthouse, crossing the bridge into Brooklyn. Claire recognized the streets. This wasn't taking her to a law office or a hotel. It was taking her home. Her home. Her tiny, half-renovated apartment above a deli, where the radiator rattled in the winter and the hallway smelled faintly of onions. The exact place Graham always joked about. Feels like a charity project, Claire. God, you deserve better decor. He used to laugh about it. Aubrey probably laughed now too. The humiliation pressed down on her like wet cement. Diane turned to her just before the driver pulled to a stop. Mr. Hale asked me to give you this. A slim envelope. Heavy paper. Sealed. Claire took it with trembling fingers. What's inside? Something he believes you should have seen a long time ago. Before Claire could ask more, Diane opened the door. The Brooklyn air rushing in. We'll be in touch within 48 hours. Do not speak to the press. Do not contact your ex-husband. And above all, do not underestimate what's happening around you. The door closed. The car pulled away. Claire stood on the sidewalk, staring at her cracked apartment steps. Suddenly, the weight of the day slammed into her. She climbed the stairs slowly, each step heavier than the last. Inside, the apartment felt unbearably small. The cold seeped through the windows. Dust floated in beams of dying afternoon light. Her life, what was left of it, lay in front of her. Lost job. Ruined reputation. A bank account with less than $4,000. Friends who vanished the second Graham upgraded his circle. She had never felt so alone. So unwanted. So disposable. Her hands shook as she slid open the envelope. One sheet of paper. One sentence. A familiar signature at the bottom. And when Claire read it, she collapsed onto the couch. Breath punched out of her chest. Because Graham hadn't just abandoned her. He had used her name to authorize something illegal. Something that could destroy her future. Bold cliffhanger. The document wasn't a warning, it was a trap Graham had set. And Claire had walked right into it. Claire stared at the document until the words blurred. Her own signature, copied, forged, perfectly replicated, sat beneath an authorization for a financial transfer she had never seen before. A transfer linked to Argent Capital. A transfer that could put her behind bars if anyone believed she was involved. Her mind spun. Why would Graham do this? Why forge her name? Why drag her into something illegal when he could have walked away clean? Then a chill crept through her chest. Because destroying her publicly wasn't enough. He needed her silent. He needed her discredited. He needed her gone. The room felt smaller, the air thinner. Claire pressed the heels of her hands against her eyes, trying to steady her breathing. A soft knock shattered the stillness. She froze. Another knock. Faster this time. Claire, it's me. Open up. The voice was familiar. Too familiar. Rachel, her best friend. Or the person she thought was her best friend. For a heartbeat, Claire felt a small flicker of relief. Maybe someone was finally here to help her. She opened the door. Rachel swept inside in a burst of perfume and cold air, clutching a tote bag from Nordstrom and a Starbucks latte with Claire's usual order. She looked polished, perfect wavy blonde hair, flawless makeup, the kind of friend people envied. "Oh my God, Claire," she gasped dramatically. "I came as soon as I saw the news. How are you? Are you okay? You must be devastated." 1. Claire stiffened. Rachel had known. Everyone had known. The media had known before Claire had even left the courthouse. The latte tasted suddenly like pity. "I'm fine," Claire lied, setting it down untouched. "It's been a long day." Rachel gave a sympathetic pout. "Of course, honey. I know it's hard seeing Graham move on so fast, but honestly, maybe it's for the best. At least now you know where you stand. Where she stands. Like she was a leftover someone forgot to throw out." Claire forced a smile. "Rachel, I need to ask you something." "Anything," Rachel said, too quickly. Claire walked to her tiny kitchen counter and picked up the document. She turned, holding it out. Rachel's face paled. "Where did you get that?" "You recognize it?" Claire asked quietly. Rachel hesitated too long. Then she laughed, a shaky, unnatural sound. "Of course not. Why would I recognize something like that?" Because Rachel worked at Argent Capital. Because Rachel had access. Because Rachel had been Aubrey's mentor. Because Rachel had been trying too hard to look innocent since the second she walked in. Claire's heart sank. "Did you help him?" she whispered. Rachel blinked. "Help who?" "Graham." "Did you help him forge my signature?" The silence was the answer. Rachel's expression shifted, not guilt, but irritation. The kind people get when an inconvenience refuses to stay quiet. "Claire," she sighed, "you don't understand how the industry works. Graham needed that document signed. You were being difficult." "Difficult?" Claire choked. "I didn't even know it existed." Rachel threw up her hands. "Well, now you do. And honestly, it's not a big deal. Nobody's going to dig into it, not unless you make noise." Noise. As if her entire life being used like a shield for corporate fraud was a minor annoyance. "Why?" Claire whispered. Rachel rolled her eyes. "Because Graham promised to fast-track my promotion. Because Aubrey said she'd put in a good word for me. Because you, Claire, were holding everyone back with your emotional fragility." Fragility. The word hit harder than any slap. Claire felt the ground tilt beneath her. She had expected betrayal from Graham. She hadn't expected it from the one person she trusted through every heartbreak, every late-night call, every painful chapter of her life. Rachel leaned in, voice low and cold. "Sign whatever they give you. Take the settlement. Disappear gracefully. Don't make this harder for the rest of us." The rest of us. Claire couldn't breathe. Rachel walked to the door, pausing only to straighten her hair. "Oh, and don't go to the police. You'll only embarrass yourself." The door clicked shut, leaving Claire alone. And more dangerous than ever. Bold cliffhanger. Her phone buzzed with a new message, this time from an unknown number, containing one chilling line. "If you want to survive this, meet me tonight. Come alone. Law." The text message glowed on Claire's cracked iPhone screen long after Rachel's footsteps faded down the hall. "If you want to survive this, meet me tonight. Come alone." No name, no hint. Just a warning wrapped in a threat. Her hands trembled. She didn't know if it was fear or fury finally waking up after months of being strangled. But before she could even decide what to do next, another notification flashed, an entertainment headline. "Aubrey Lane celebrates new romance with CFO at exclusive Manhattan lounge." A night of glamour. Aubrey and Graham's first post-divorce appearance together. Claire felt her throat tighten. She shouldn't have clicked it, but she did. And the first image nearly split her in half. Aubrey, her flawless makeup glowing under the Andalusia lounge's golden lights, wrapped tightly in a silver-sequined gown that sparkled like revenge itself, leaned into Graham's chest as though she'd already won the war. Photographers swarmed them outside the velvet ropes. Rideshare cars honked. Paparazzi shouted. And Graham. Graham looked happy. Not forced. Not politely smiling. But blissfully, shamelessly radiant, as though the past 7 years with Claire had been nothing more than an inconvenience he had finally escaped. Claire replayed the clip, hating herself for it. Aubrey laughed, tossing her hair over one shoulder. "We're just excited," she told a reporter. "It feels like a brand new beginning." The reporter pressed, "What about Claire Whitmore?" Aubrey rolled her eyes so subtly only women could feel the slap. "I wish her the best. I really do. Some people just don't fit this world." This world. Luxury lounges. Paparazzi. A CFO's arm around her. A borrowed fame built on someone else's broken life. But the worst moment came next. Graham leaned toward the mic. "Well, I won't speak for my ex-wife, but Claire has always been emotional. This transition is good for everyone." The crowd laughed politely. Claire's stomach twisted. She had been erased, rewritten, downgraded into a stereotype. The fragile, unstable ex-wife who couldn't handle reality. And Aubrey wore the crown Claire was never allowed to touch. It would have been easier if that was all. But the video kept going. Inside the lounge, the cameras caught the couple celebrating with champagne. Aubrey lifted her glass high. "To fresh starts," she said, smirking. Graham clinked his glass against hers. "And to the right woman finally being by my side." The right woman. Claire shut her eyes, the humiliation burning her from the inside out. This was more than a celebration. This was a parade, a victory lap, a public proclamation that she had lost her marriage, her dignity, her reputation. And everyone believed it. Because Graham was powerful. Aubrey was beautiful. Rachel had stabbed her in the back. And Claire was the ghost left behind in a Brooklyn walk-up, with a forged signature that could destroy her life. Her phone buzzed again. Another headline. Argent Capital announces exclusive gala at the Plaza Hotel hosted by CFO Graham Whitmore and PR star Aubrey Lane. Aubrey's face filled the screen, tilted perfectly toward the camera, a diamond necklace catching the light, a look that screamed, "I'm untouchable." The gala wasn't just a party. It was a victory parade. Her final, spiteful flourish. Aubrey wanted Claire to see, to know, to crumble. But she didn't know something critical. Claire had nothing left to lose. Her fingers tightened around the phone. The unknown number message still glowed at the top. "Meet me tonight. Come alone." Claire inhaled sharply. Maybe it was a trap. Maybe it was a lifeline. But she needed answers about Graham. About the forged document. About the betrayal suffocating her life. And someone out there knew the truth. Bold cliffhanger. Claire grabbed her coat and stepped into the night, unaware that the person waiting for her was the last one she expected. Night fell over Brooklyn like a heavy curtain, swallowing the last streaks of orange before Claire even stepped outside. The street lamps flickered weakly, casting broken halos across the sidewalk. She wrapped her thin coat around herself and walked, each step echoing louder than the last. The city buzzed, but she felt miles away from it, suspended in a silence only heartbreak could create. She didn't go far. The message had told her to meet at the small park, 3 blocks away, a place she used to walk to when she needed quiet. Tonight, the quiet pressed in on her, suffocating, absolute. Her phone vibrated with another notification. Aubrey Lane and Graham Whitmore spotted kissing inside the Andalusia lounge. Sources say Graham never felt happier. Claire shut off the screen, but the damage was done. The image, Aubrey's hand on Graham's chest, his fingers at the small of her back, burned its way into her mind. 7 years erased by someone who wasn't even old enough to rent a car. She sank onto a cold bench. Her breath fogged the air, uneven. Her chest felt bruised from the inside out. She had held strong at the courthouse. She had held strong when Rachel betrayed her. She had held strong watching the videos of Graham celebrating her downfall. But here, under a dark sky with no one watching, something inside her cracked. Her shoulders curled inward. Her throat tightened. And before she could stop it, a sob tore out of her chest. Then another. And another. Claire buried her face in her hands and cried ugly, broken, uncontrollable tears that shook her entire body. For the marriage she lost. For the future she'd planned. For the stability that vanished overnight. For the humiliation she couldn't outrun. For the betrayal wrapped in smiles and designer dresses. She cried for the version of herself she used to be. The Claire who believed hard work paid off. The Claire who believed people were good. The Claire who believed her husband loved her. The cold seeped through her coat. A siren howled in the distance. A couple walked by, whispering as they glanced at her, and she felt her face burn with shame. She didn't even look like herself. Her hair was messy, her makeup streaked, her hands trembling. She looked like the exact thing the tabloids were calling her, a shattered woman who couldn't let go. Her phone buzzed again. At first, she ignored it. Then she wiped her face with her sleeve and glanced down. Unknown number. Turn around. Claire's heart stopped. Slowly terrified, she looked over her shoulder. A figure approached from the shadows. Not threatening. Not hurried. Just deliberate. Someone who knew she would come. The streetlight caught the edge of a face she recognized. Not a stranger. Not Rachel. Not Graham. It was someone she hadn't spoken to in years, someone she thought had forgotten she ever existed. A name formed on her trembling lips. Nathan? Nathan Hale stepped forward, hands in the pockets of his black coat, eyes soft but alert, studying her, assessing the damage Graham had done. He didn't speak at first, just sat on the bench beside her, leaving a respectful distance. "You're freezing," he murmured, his voice low, steady. Claire swallowed hard. "Why are you here?" Nathan exhaled, a breath that seemed to carry years of unspoken weight. "Because Graham isn't just trying to hurt your reputation." His eyes met hers, sharp, clear, devastatingly serious. "He's trying to bury you." Claire's stomach twisted. Why would he go this far? Nathan's jaw tightened. "Because you know something you don't realize you know." Her breath hitched. "What does that mean?" Nathan leaned closer, not threatening, but protective, as if the shadows themselves were listening. "It means," he whispered, "you're in far more danger than you think." Bold cliffhanger. "And if you want to survive this, Claire, you can't go back home tonight." For a long moment, Claire couldn't breathe. The city hummed around them, distant horns, a dog barking, the rustle of winter wind through bare branches, but all she could hear was Nathan's voice echoing in her mind. "You can't go back home tonight." Her home, her last piece of stability, gone. Just like everything else. Claire swallowed hard, forcing her voice steady. "Why? What's going to happen to me?" Nathan didn't answer immediately. He studied her with the calm intensity of a man used to calculating risk, boardroom risk, billion-dollar risk, but tonight, his expression carried something different. Something personal. "Claire," he said softly, "someone forged your name on a financial authorization linked to Argent Capital. That document wasn't a one-off mistake or a convenient slip-up. It was part of a much bigger move." She hugged her arms around herself. "Bigger how?" "Bigger as in criminal." "One." Nathan's voice dropped lower. "And bigger as in Graham needs you silent before anyone starts asking the wrong questions." Claire's blood ran cold. He wouldn't, but she stopped. Because, yes, he would. He already had. Nathan continued. "If investigators dig into this, and they will, it's your signature they'll see. Not his, not Rachel's, not Aubrey's. Yours." The ground seemed to sway beneath her feet. "So he's setting me up." "No," Nathan corrected. "He already set you up. Now he's waiting for you to fall." Claire pressed her shaking fingers to her forehead. "I don't understand. Why me? Why go this far?" Nathan hesitated, and that hesitation scared her more than anything he'd said tonight. He finally exhaled. "Because there's something only you have. Something Graham didn't expect you to remember." Claire blinked. "Nathan, I don't. That's why I texted." He leaned back on the bench, gaze lifting to the dark sky. 5 years ago, we crossed paths at a panel at Columbia. You remember that?" Claire nodded slowly. "You were the keynote speaker. I was nobody." Nathan's lips lifted slightly, not a smile, but something sadder. "You weren't nobody. After the event, when my company was being targeted by a smear campaign from a rival firm, you emailed the board a detailed analysis. You connected dots no one else saw. You single-handedly proved the entire story was fabricated." Claire felt her breath catch. She had forgotten. No, she had buried it. She never connected it to him. "I never replied," Nathan admitted. "I should have. I didn't realize until weeks later that the anonymous report came from you." Claire shook her head. "But what does that have to do with Graham?" "Everything," Nathan said. "In that report, you mentioned a pattern, a financial pattern that the rival firm had copied from Argent Capital. A pattern almost identical to the one used in the forged document with your name." Has he? The realization hit like a punch. "You're saying I exposed a technique Graham later used illegally?" Nathan nodded. "Exactly. And if investigators discover you recognized it once, they'll assume you were part of it now." Claire's voice cracked. "Oh my God." Nathan moved slightly closer, lowering his voice. "Someone at Argent knows you're a risk. Maybe more than one person. The forged signature wasn't just about convenience, it was about tying up loose ends." "One." A tear slipped down Claire's cheek before she could stop it. Nathan didn't touch her, didn't move, but the air between them shifted warmth in the middle of winter. "Claire," he said quietly, "I'm here because you helped me once, and because I won't let them destroy you." She looked up at him, jaw trembling. "What am I supposed to do?" Nathan stood, offering a hand, not demanding, not pulling, just offering. "You're coming with me." "Where?" Her voice croaked. "To somewhere safe. Somewhere they can't touch you." "And tomorrow." His eyes hardened, a steel she'd never seen in him before. Tomorrow we start fighting back. Bold cliffhanger. As Claire reached for his hand, headlights swept across the park, stopping directly in front of them. Someone else had followed her. The headlights froze Claire in place like a hunted animal. The black sedan idled at the curb of the empty Brooklyn park, engine humming low, windows tinted so dark they reflected nothing but her own terrified face. Nathan's hand hovered near her elbow, not touching, not pushing, just ready. The driver's door cracked open. Claire's breath hitched. But instead of a threat emerging from the darkness, a familiar figure stepped out, thin frame, dark hair in a messy bun, oversized coat swallowed around her. Rachel. Hair pulse plummeted. Nathan stood taller, posture shifting from protective to alert. "Friend of yours?" he murmured quietly. "That depends on the night," Claire whispered. Rachel hurried toward them, her heels snapping on the pavement. The expression on her face wasn't smug this time. It was pale, frantic, almost frightened. "Claire, thank God I found you." Rachel grabbed her arm, squeezing too tightly. "You can't be out here alone." Claire pulled away. "Why? So you can escort me back to Graham like a loyal employee?" Rachel winced as though slapped. "Claire, you don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly now," Claire snapped. "You helped them forge my name. You chose your promotion over our friendship. What else is there to understand?" Nathan stepped forward slightly, positioning himself between them without making it obvious. "Miss Rachel, is it?" His voice was cool steel. "Why are you following her?" Rachel swallowed hard, glancing nervously at him, recognizing him now. Recognizing the weight of who he was. I didn't know she was with you," Rachel stammered. "I just knew I had to warn her. Claire, something is happening at Argent. Something bad, and you're the center of it." Claire's blood chilled. "Why should I believe anything you say now?" Rachel rubbed her trembling hands together. "Because Aubrey found out about the forged authorization and she panicked. She thinks Graham is setting her up too. She told him she didn't want to be involved anymore. And Graham, he didn't take it well." Nathan's jaw clenched. "Define, didn't take it well." Rachel looked around as if afraid the shadows might hear. "He freaked out. Said he wouldn't let some unstable, jealous women ruin his future. And then he told the board that Claire was threatening him. That she was showing up places, calling him, harassing him." Claire's mouth dropped open. "I haven't spoken to him once." "I know." Rachel's voice cracked. "That's why I came. Claire, he's building a case. He wants to frame you as unwell. Delusional." Nathan swore under his breath. Rachel continued, eyes glossy with fear. "Tonight, he made a call to someone. I don't know who, but I heard one sentence before he shut the door. She met Claire's eyes. Make sure she doesn't come near the gala." The words sliced through Claire like glass. The gala, the Plaza Hotel, next week. The celebration Graham and Aubrey were spinning as their official debut. Claire didn't know whether to laugh or collapse. "So he wants me gone." Erased, silenced. Rachel shook her head helplessly. "Claire, he's gone too far. You have to disappear for a few days. I don't want anything to happen to you." Something broke in Claire then, not pain, not fear. Something colder. Sharper. "Resolve." She stepped closer to Rachel. "You told me earlier to disappear quietly. To sign what they give me and vanish. You said I was fragile. You were wrong." Rachel's lip trembled. Claire's voice dropped, low and steady. "I'm done being afraid of him. And I'm done being afraid of you." Rachel flinched as if the truth itself had weight. Nathan placed a gentle but firm hand on Claire's shoulder. "We need to go," he murmured. "Now." Rachel reached out. "Please, Claire, don't go with him. You don't know what you're stepping into." Claire looked Rachel dead in the eyes. "I know exactly what I'm stepping into." She turned away. Nathan opened the passenger door of his car for her. As Claire slid inside, Rachel called after her, voice cracking, "If you show up at that gala, he will destroy you." Nathan glanced back at Rachel, eyes icy. "No," he said. "He's already destroyed himself." 1. Bold cliffhanger. As the car pulled away, Rachel whispered a final sentence. Claire couldn't hear one that would change the war completely. Nathan's car sliced through the Manhattan night, leaving Brooklyn and all its shattered pieces behind. Claire pressed her forehead lightly to the cool window, watching the blur of headlights streak across the East River. She felt hollow, like someone had scooped out everything soft inside her and left only the ache. Nathan didn't speak. He drove with the quiet confidence of a man who understood that silence wasn't emptiness, it was space to breathe. When they reached Midtown, he pulled into the private underground garage of a Park Avenue high-rise. Claire blinked in disbelief. "This is where you live?" she whispered. Nathan offered a modest shrug. "Temporary. I prefer a simpler place uptown, but this is more secure." Secure. A word Claire had forgotten the feeling of. He guided her to a private elevator that whisked them straight to the 42nd floor, a penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering Manhattan skyline. The room glowed with warm amber light. Sleek, modern, serene. Everything her chaotic life was not. Claire stepped inside quietly, afraid she might break something by breathing too hard. "You can stay in the guest suite," Nathan said gently. "No cameras, no access from outside. No one gets in without my say. You're safe here." Her throat tightened. Safe. Finally. But safety wasn't comfort. Nathan must have sensed the storm inside her because he opened a cabinet and pulled out a thick, familiar-looking box, tissue-soft, matte black. He held it out. "I had this brought up earlier." Claire frowned. "What is it?" "Open it." She lifted the lid slowly. Inside lay a laptop, a brand-new MacBook Pro, silver casing glowing like something ceremonial. Next to it rested a simple velvet pouch containing a Mont Blanc pen. Her breath caught. "I can't accept this," she whispered. "You can." Nathan stepped closer, voice low but steady. "Because Graham destroyed your tools. Your network. Your name. You need new weapons." "Weapons." The word struck something deep within her. "I'm not strong enough for this," she said quietly, eyes glazing. "I can barely breathe most days." Nathan didn't move closer, didn't touch her. His restraint was its own form of gentleness. "You think strength means never breaking," he said. "But that's a lie. Strength is breaking and rebuilding anyway." Claire stared at him, stunned. He continued, slower, firmer. "Graham doesn't fear your weakness, Claire. He fears your clarity. Once you stop drowning, you'll start fighting, and that terrifies him." She didn't realize her hands were shaking until Nathan reached out, not to take them, but to steady the laptop box she was clutching too tightly. "You helped me once," he said softly. "Let me help you now." A long silence stretched between them, thick with everything unspoken. Finally, Claire inhaled deeply, her first full breath in weeks. "If I stay here, I want to rebuild. I want to work again. I want to take back everything he stole." Nathan's eyes warmed with something she couldn't name. "Good. Because tomorrow morning, we start." He walked to a nearby shelf and pulled down a slim leather notebook. "Tonight, you write," he said. "Not about him, about you. Who you were, who you are, who you want to become." Claire stared at it. "You really think I can come back from this?" Nathan gave a soft, rare smile. "I don't think, Claire, I know." She carried the notebook into the guest suite, closing the door behind her. The room was luxurious yet calming, soft ivory bedding, a reading nook with a view over Central Park, a diffuser filling the air with gentle cedar. She sat on the bed, opened the notebook, and wrote the first line with the Mont Blanc pen. "I am not finished." 1. The words steadied her, empowered her, rebuilt her. She wrote until her hand cramped, until the heaviness in her chest shifted just a little, until she remembered she was a woman with a spine, not a shadow. And somewhere between the lines, rage turned into resolve. Bold cliffhanger. When she finally set the notebook down, she found an envelope slipped under her door with Graham's name on the corner. The envelope lay on the floor like a threat wrapped in expensive stationery. Claire stared at it for a long moment, her heartbeat thudding in her ears. The elegant embossed corner G. Whitmore felt like a fingerprint on her throat. How did this get upstairs? Into a penthouse protected by private elevators and coded access? Her stomach twisted. She opened the door a crack. The hallway was empty. No footsteps. No elevators. Just silence. She picked up the envelope with 2 fingers, as if it were radioactive, and carried it back inside. The weight of it felt wrong. Heavy. Intentional. Nathan knocked once before opening her door an inch. "Claire, are you okay?" I heard. His eyes dropped to the envelope. He stepped inside immediately, his expression sharpening. "Who delivered that?" "I don't know," Claire whispered. It was just there. Nathan's jaw tightened. Don't open anything he sends. Too late. Claire swallowed hard and slipped a finger under the seal. Inside was a single sheet of paper. A printout. A financial statement. The same forged authorization she'd found earlier. Except this one had more pages. Annotated. Highlighted. And clipped to the top was a handwritten note in Graham's neat, arrogant script. If you expose me, you expose yourself. Stay quiet. Take your settlement. Walk away. Claire felt her chest seize. Nathan's voice was low, controlled. Give it to me. She handed it over, watching him scan the pages with tightening eyes. After a long, tense minute, he exhaled. Claire, this isn't just incriminating. It says I approved a transfer, Claire said numbly. I saw that part. Nathan shook his head. No, this is worse. This includes something else. He spread the pages on the table, pointing to a series of transfers, smaller ones, spread across months. Her name appeared again. And again. And again. Graham's been funneling money using your identity, Nathan said quietly. For over a year. Her niece buckled. She grabbed the back of a chair to keep from collapsing. A year? Her voice cracked. But I didn't even know. That's exactly why he used you, Nathan said. You were clean. You had no ties to Argent's financial systems. No one would look twice. Claire started trembling so violently she had to sit down. How did he even get my information? Nathan hesitated, not wanting to hurt her, but knowing he owed her the truth. Do you remember refinancing your shared condo last year? Claire nodded slowly. Graham handled the paperwork. He said it was easier that way. It wasn't, Nathan whispered. He stole everything he needed from that packet. Her breath stopped. Driver's license copy. Signature samples. Social security number. Bank information. A complete identity blueprint. Oh my God, she whispered. He planned this. From the beginning. Nathan knelt in front of her, voice steady. Yes. And he chose you because you're credible. Intelligent. No criminal history. No red flags. You were the perfect scapegoat. Tears welled in her eyes, not soft tears this time, but hot, furious ones. How was I so blind? You trusted him, Nathan said gently. That's not blindness. That's love. Claire shook her head, rage building like a storm. No, that's weakness. His power came from my silence. From me trying to keep the peace. From me thinking being quiet was being good. No. She grabbed the documents, fingers shaking with fury. No more. Nathan stood. There's more you need to see. He opened a file on his phone, encrypted, confidential, and turned the screen toward her. It was Graham. In his office. Talking to someone on speakerphone. The audio played. If she talks, we bury her. She's fragile. No one will believe a word she says. Claire's stomach lurched. Nathan paused the recording. Graham didn't just frame you. He built an entire narrative to destroy you. Claire's tears dried on her cheeks. Her breathing steadied. Something hardened inside her, something fierce, unbreakable. He thinks I'm fragile, she said quietly. Nathan met her eyes. He's wrong. Bold cliffhanger. Claire lifted the forged documents, her voice calm and lethal. I want to hit back, and I want to hit hard. Tell me where we start. When Claire said, tell me where we start, Nathan didn't hesitate. He picked up his phone, typed a message, and within seconds, his entire penthouse shifted in atmosphere, no longer a safe haven, but a war room. First, Nathan said, sliding the forged documents into a secure folder. You need allies. Claire let out a humorless laugh. I don't have allies. Rachel betrayed me. My coworkers vanished. Everyone chose Graham. Nathan shook his head. Not everyone. He walked to a sleek black cabinet and retrieved a tablet. With a few taps, he pulled up a list of names, dozens of them. Who are these people? Claire asked, eyes scanning the screen. People Graham has burned, Nathan replied. Employees, he blacklisted. Analysts, he silenced. Assistants, he took credit from. Partners, he manipulated. Women, he used. Claire's breath caught. There are so many. Nathan nodded grimly. Powerful men like Graham don't just betray one person. They cause collateral damage everywhere they go. One. And they all came forward? She whispered. Not exactly. Nathan glanced up, his expression measured. I reached out to a few privately. Told them something was happening, something major, and that your name was at the center. They didn't hesitate. Claire swallowed hard. Why? Because you were the only one who ever fought for them, Nathan said simply. And you didn't even realize you were doing it. He tapped a name on the list. Mira Collins, senior analyst. Graham forced her to take responsibility for an error he made, and she nearly lost her license. Another tap. Julian Price, junior accountant. He reported inconsistencies, and Graham had him removed for poor performance. Then another. Hannah Vale, former assistant, fired after refusing to lie for him. Claire's throat tightened. Graham always insisted she was being dramatic when she questioned his behavior. But seeing the names real people, real casualties made her chest burn. Nathan continued. They don't trust the system. But they trust you. Claire shook her head, stunned. Why me? Because you are the one person who didn't benefit from his downfall. You survived him. That makes you dangerous. At that moment, the elevator chimed. Claire stiffened. Nathan held up a calming hand. It's them. The doors opened, and 3 figures stepped out. A woman with clipped auburn hair and fierce eyes, Mira. A young man in a gray suit too big for him, Julian. And a quiet blonde with a nervous smile, Hannah. For a moment, none of them spoke. Then Mira approached Claire first. You don't know me, Mira said quietly. But you were the only wife in that building who treated us like human beings. You looked us in the eyes. You thanked us. You defended us when Graham yelled. We never forgot that. Julian stepped forward, voice shaky. He ruined me. But when Nathan said you needed help, I didn't even think twice. Hannah nodded fiercely. He broke all of us in different ways. But if you're standing up to him, we're standing with you. Claire felt something unfamiliar rise inside her, not sadness, not fear. Strength. Nathan's gaze softened as he watched her. You're not fighting alone anymore. Claire exhaled slowly. Then what's our plan? Mira set her bag on the table, pulling out files. We expose him, Julian added. We trace every fraudulent transfer, Hannah whispered. We prove the forged signature isn't yours. 1. Claire stared at them, overwhelmed. You're risking everything, she said. Mira shook her head. No, you are. We're just finally doing the right thing. Nathan placed a hand on the table, grounding the moment. Graham thinks he controls the narrative. That he controls you. But starting tonight, he controls nothing. Claire straightened, shoulders firm. Then let's take him down. Bold cliffhanger. As they began assembling evidence, Hannah's phone buzzed, and her face drained of color. Claire, it's a message from Graham. He knows you're not home. Hannah's hands shook as she turned her phone toward Claire. A text message glowed across the screen like a threat written in fire. Graham, you should be home right now. We need to finalize the settlement. Don't make this more difficult than it already is. Another message appeared while they stared. And Claire, the longer you run, the more guilty you look. Mo. Claire felt her lungs tighten, her pulse racing beneath her skin like a trapped animal. He knows, she whispered. He knows I left. He knows I'm not at the apartment. Nathan's expression hardened to granite. He's testing you. He wants to see if you'll panic and come back. Julian swallowed. What if he has someone watching her building? Mira scoffed, but her voice trembled beneath the facade of confidence. He absolutely has someone watching the building. Men like Graham only pretend to trust the system, they prefer private solutions. Claire pressed a palm to her forehead. He's accelerating things. Why? Nathan answered before anyone else could. Because he's scared. The forged documents were never meant to reach you. The envelope tonight? That wasn't intimidation. That was desperation. Mira opened her laptop. And desperate men do stupid things. Julian nodded. And violent things. Silence fell over the penthouse. Claire's voice was soft, but steady. I'm not going back there. I'm done running. Nathan met her eyes. Good, because you just received something more important than his threats. He slid a printed card across the table. It was crisp, heavy, cream-colored, embossed in gold. Claire stared. The Plaza Hotel. Annual Argent Capital Gala. Hosted by CFO Graham Whitmore, and PR Director Aubrey Lane. Her stomach lurched. That's next week. No, Nathan corrected. It's 3 days from now. Claire recoiled. 3 days? Why so soon? Because Graham wants to cement his public narrative before the board reviews next quarter's audit, Mira muttered. He's trying to lock in his image as the golden boy. Julian's fingers flew across his keyboard. This isn't just a gala. It's a press ambush disguised as champagne. Nathan nodded. He wants you out of the picture before that night. Permanently. Claire's voice wavered. Then why send me this? She tapped the invitation. Nathan's jaw clenched. Because he expects you to crumble, to hide, to fall apart, to be exactly the fragile woman he's been telling the media you are. Hannah leaned forward, eyes wide. What if you don't crumble? What if you show up? Claire froze. Me? At their gala? Mira smirked. Imagine the panic. He'd think you have something. Something big, Julian added. And the board would notice. So would the press, Hannah whispered. Aubrey would unravel in front of 100 cameras. But Nathan was silent. He studied Claire with an unreadable expression. Nathan, she whispered, say something. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, voice low. This is the moment Graham never thought you'd reach. Claire swallowed. What moment? The moment you stop being prey, he said. The moment you stand in the same room as the man who tried to erase you and make him sweat. The air shifted. Claire felt something lift in her chest. Not rage. Not fear. Power. Raw, quiet, dangerous power. But I can't walk into the plaza alone, Claire murmured. Nathan's mouth curved, slow, controlled, but unmistakably. You won't. Mira inhaled sharply. You're going with her? Julian sat up straighter. Hale and Claire arriving together? The board would lose its mind. Hannah covered her mouth. Aubrey would combust. Nathan didn't look away from Claire. I'm not going as protection. I'm going as someone who believes in you. Someone Graham can't intimidate. 1. Claire felt heat rise in her chest, a mixture of gratitude and something she wasn't ready to name. Nathan continued. 3 days. We gather evidence. We prepare your statement. And then you walk into that ballroom looking like the woman Graham will never, ever control again. Claire stared at the invitation one last time. 3 days. 3 days until she walked into hell with fire in her veins. She lifted her chin. Okay, let's do it. Bold cliffhanger. But before anyone could celebrate, Mira's laptop chimed, pulling up live security footage of Claire's building. A man in a dark coat stood outside her door, waiting. The moment Mira spun the laptop around, the entire room froze. The grainy security feed showed the narrow hallway outside Claire's old apartment. Dim lights, chipped paint, silence, and a man, tall, dark coat, baseball cap pulled low, standing completely still right in front of her door. Not knocking, not pacing, just waiting. Claire's stomach twisted into knots. Julian leaned closer to the laptop. That's not a delivery guy. Hannah whispered. Is he watching the door? Nathan remained unnervingly calm, but Claire saw the tension in his jaw, the way his fingers curled slightly as if ready for a fight. He's checking his phone, Mira murmured. Maybe he's waiting for instructions. Claire swallowed hard. Instructions from who? No one needed to answer. She already knew. Graham. Her chest tightened, breath coming shorter, faster. A week ago, she would have broken down right here. A month ago, she would have convinced herself she was imagining the danger. But tonight, something in her had changed. Nathan closed the laptop with a sharp, decisive click. No one else goes near that apartment, he said. From this point on, Claire doesn't walk anywhere alone. Claire expected fear to rise inside her like a tidal wave. Instead, she felt clarity. Cold, precise, focused. He wants to scare me, she said quietly. He wants me fragile, silent. Nathan nodded. Too bad you're done being scared. She straightened her shoulders. Then let's prepare for this gala. Because if he thinks he can intimidate me out of showing up, he doesn't know who I've become in the last 48 hours. The team exchanged glances. The transformation had already started. The next morning, sunlight spilled across the penthouse in gentle gold. Claire woke earlier than she had in months. She showered, tied her hair back, and dressed in simple black leggings and a loose sweater Nathan had left outside her door with a handwritten note. Eat, work, prepare. You're not who you were yesterday. She found him in the kitchen, pouring coffee into a sleek black mug. He turned when he heard her footsteps. You slept, he said softly. Good. Claire pulled her sleeves down over her cold fingers. What's the plan today? Nathan raised a brow at her tone, steady, businesslike. Sometime during the next 72 hours, Graham will make a mistake. We need to shine so brightly at the plaza that every eye turns toward you and every lie he's built starts collapsing. It was the first time Claire realized this wasn't just about survival. This was about taking back the narrative. By noon, the penthouse transformed into preparation headquarters. Mira set up a workstation near the windows, combing through financial trails. Julian built a timeline of Graham's misconduct. Hannah reviewed legal precedents that could protect Claire. And Claire finally began rebuilding herself. Nathan handed her a sealed garment bag. This arrived for you. She unzipped it and gasped. A gown, midnight black, cut to fit her frame in a way she hadn't seen in years. Elegant, powerful, stunning without trying. Claire's voice trembled. Nathan, how did you? I didn't pick it. He nodded toward Mira. She did. She said it was the dress a woman wears when she stops apologizing for existing. Claire's throat tightened. It's beautiful. It's yours, Mira said. And you'll wear it like armor. Julian added, everyone will be staring at you the moment you walk into the plaza. Hannah smiled. Which is exactly what Graham never wanted. Claire stared at the gown, feeling something rise inside her. Not fear. Not revenge. Identity. For the first time in years, she saw herself sharp, capable, worthy. Hours passed in focused intensity. By evening, the plan was forming. Claire studied the forged documents for patterns. Mira rehearsed what Claire might say if confronted. Nathan coached her on posture, presence, and power, the sort of unspoken authority that filled a room before the person even spoke. At one point, Nathan stepped behind her as she practiced walking in heels for the gala, steady, slow, deliberate. You don't have to pretend to be strong, he murmured. Claire lifted her chin. I'm not pretending anymore. He held her gaze for a moment too long. Then he smiled just slightly. Exactly. By midnight, Claire's transformation was no longer potential. It was inevitable. Bold cliffhanger. But as she prepared to close her laptop, an email arrived from Aubrey. Subject line, we need to talk. I know everything. Claire reread Aubrey's email 3 times, each line slicing deeper than the last. Subject, we need to talk. I know everything. Body. Claire, please. I didn't understand what he was doing. I think I'm in danger too. Meet me before the gala. Alone. It's about Graham. Aubrey. Her pulse thundered in her ears. Aubrey. The mistress. The woman who kissed Graham in front of flashing cameras while Claire's life burned behind her. Now she wanted a meeting? Nathan read the email silently from over her shoulder. His jaw flexed once, tightly. It's a trap. Mira snapped, pacing. Aubrey's been in Graham's pocket since day one. Or she's scared, Hannah murmured. She's been looking anxious in every photo lately. Julian shrugged. Fear doesn't erase being an accomplice. Claire stayed silent. Her mind replayed Aubrey's smirk at the lounge. The triumph in her eyes. The whispered comments about fragile ex-wives. But there was something else too. A moment from the footage Mira pulled earlier. Aubrey stepping out of Graham's office, eyes red, expression shaken while Graham barked into the phone behind her. Claire had dismissed it as performance. Now she wasn't so sure. Nathan turned to Claire, voice low and steady. You don't meet her alone. I know, Claire said. I'm not stupid, but she knows something. Something Graham doesn't want out. Otherwise she wouldn't risk reaching out. And Nathan studied her, calculating. You think she has information? I know she does, Claire whispered. A woman like Aubrey doesn't suddenly panic unless she's seen something she wasn't supposed to. Mira crossed her arms. Then, we control the meeting. Neutral location, public. And we stay close. Nathan nodded. Agreed. Julian tapped rapidly on his tablet. The plaza's lobby is full of cameras. If she tries anything, it'll be recorded. Claire inhaled deeply. The transformation she'd begun the past few days settled fully into her bones. She was not the same woman who cried on a park bench. She was not the same woman Graham discarded. She was not the same woman Rachel betrayed. She was Claire Whitmore, a woman rebuilding herself with truth sharper than any weapon. The night of the gala, the Plaza Hotel glowed like liquid gold against the Manhattan night sky. Reporters swarmed the entrance, their flashes strobe lighting the marble facade. Black SUVs lined Fifth Avenue. The city hummed with anticipation. Inside Nathan's penthouse, Claire stood before a full-length mirror. The midnight black gown clung to her form in elegant, sculpted lines, not revealing, not modest, commanding. Her hair, swept into a soft wave, framed her face with deliberate grace. Mira and Hannah adjusted the final touches, subtle diamond earrings, a soft, smoky eye, a confident but understated red lip. "Take a breath," Hannah whispered. Julian let out an appreciative whistle. "Graham is not ready for this." Nathan stepped into view and stopped. For a full 5 seconds, he said nothing. Then, quietly, "You look like someone no one will ever underestimate again." Claire's heart jumped, but she steadied herself. This night wasn't about Nathan, or Graham, or even Aubrey. It was about reclaiming her life. "Let's go," she said, arriving at the plaza. When the black car door opened, the world exploded in flashes. Photographers gasped. Whispers rippled like electricity through the crowd. "Is that Claire Whitmore? Who's the man with her? Oh my God, that's Nathan Hale. Graham is going to lose his mind." Nathan offered his arm not possessively, but respectfully. Claire took it. Their entrance was a storm. The lobby doors parted. Guests froze mid-conversation. Champagne flutes paused halfway to lips. Music faltered. And at the center of the ballroom, Graham Whitmore turned. His smile died instantly. Aubrey, standing beside him, went rigid, face draining of color. Claire met their eyes. Calm, unshaken, radiant. Nathan leaned in just enough for only her to hear. "Ready?" She lifted her chin. "Born ready." Bold cliffhanger. Across the room, Aubrey suddenly broke away from Graham, rushing toward Claire with fear in her eyes, and one desperate sentence. "He knows you're here, and he's planning something." Aubrey reached Claire in 3 trembling steps, her silver gown shimmering under the ballroom lights like cracked glass. Her face, usually poised, camera-ready, was pale, frantic, stripped of confidence. "Claire," she whispered, gripping her wrist with icy fingers, "you shouldn't be here. Graham, he's planning something bad. He told the board you're unstable. He's trying to—" Nathan stepped between them instantly, placing a protective barrier with his body. "Slow down. What exactly is he planning?" Aubrey swallowed hard, eyes darting nervously toward Graham, who watched from across the ballroom like a predator spotting prey. "He told security that if you showed up tonight, Claire, they were to remove you, publicly, make a scene." She trembled. "He wants to ruin you in front of everyone. He wants footage, something he can use." Claire felt her stomach twist, but she kept her face composed, calm, steady. "Aubrey," she said quietly, "why are you warning me? Last week you were smiling on red carpets with him." Aubrey's throat tightened. "Because I didn't know. I thought he loved me. I thought I was special. But he's been doing the same thing to me he did to you. He's been using my accounts, my passwords, my email." Her voice cracked. "He forged my signature too. I found out 2 nights ago." Mira, standing just behind Claire, stiffened. "There's more than one forged identity?" Aubrey nodded frantically. "At least 3. Maybe more. He's funneling money through women close to him, so he has someone to blame when things go wrong." Julian swore under his breath. "A fraud pyramid built on relationships. That's monstrous." Aubrey blinked rapidly, tears gathering. "I thought I could handle him. I thought I could be the exception. But Graham, he doesn't love people. He uses them until they fall apart." Her gaze flicked to Claire, filled with something raw. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for everything I said, for believing him about you. I didn't understand what you were living through until it happened to me." Claire should have felt satisfaction, revenge, justified vindication. But she felt something else instead. Recognition. "We were both manipulated," Claire said softly. "Different roles, same man." Aubrey nodded weakly. "He won't let you leave tonight without destroying you. You need to go." Nathan shook his head. She's not leaving. Not yet. Aubrey's eyes widened. Are you insane? Graham is furious. That's fine, Nathan replied evenly. He'll be more furious when tonight ends. Before Aubrey could argue, a sudden hush fell over the ballroom. Graham Whitmore began walking toward them. The crowd parted slowly, instinctively, as if sensing the collision about to happen. His eyes were locked on Claire. Cold, sharp, calculating. Aubrey stumbled back, fear spreading across her features. Mira stepped to Claire's side. Julian moved closer. Hannah appeared behind them with her phone ready. But Claire didn't move. She stood her ground. Graham arrived, smile stretched too thin, too controlled. Well, he said smoothly. What a surprise. Claire Whitmore, crashing a gala she wasn't invited to. He glanced around theatrically. Were you hoping to embarrass yourself or me? Nathan stepped forward, placing a steady hand near Claire's back. She was invited, he said. By me. Gasps rippled across the crowd. Graham's jaw twitched. Nathan, this isn't your concern. It became my concern, Nathan replied coldly. The moment you forged Claire's name. The room erupted. Soft gasps, sharp whispers, heads turning. Graham's smile cracked. You have no proof. 1. Oh, he does, Mira said from behind Claire, lifting a file discreetly. And the board will too tomorrow morning. Graham froze. Nathan's voice dropped, razor sharp. Your game is over. Aubrey took a step back, shaking her head. I told you, Claire, he's dangerous when cornered. He was cornered now, and he knew it. Bold cliffhanger. Graham's eyes suddenly darted to security, who began moving toward Claire. And he smiled. Let's see who the board believes when you're dragged out screaming. Security moved fast, too fast. 2 men in black suits cut through the ballroom like blades, heading straight for Claire. Guests parted in alarm, some already pulling out their phones, sensing a scandal before it fully unfolded. Graham didn't hide his satisfaction. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back, chest lifted, chin high like a king watching peasants dragged out of his palace. Claire, he said loudly, ensuring the nearby guests heard every word. I warned you not to show up. You're not well. You're paranoid, unstable. Claire stepped forward, voice steady and clear. Stop talking, Graham. The room gasped. Not because she raised her voice, she didn't. But because she didn't sound afraid. Graham blinked, thrown off. Excuse me? You heard me, she said. Stop talking. Nathan, Mira, Julian, and Hannah stood behind her like an unspoken shield. Even Aubrey lingered close, torn between fear and fragile courage. Security closed in. Ma'am, one of the guards said, we need you to come with us. No, Nathan said firmly, stepping between Claire and the guards. She stays. This is a private event, Mr. Hale. It's my hotel. Nathan didn't raise his voice, but the sentence slammed through the ballroom like thunder. Even Claire turned to look at him. You own the plaza, she whispered. Technically, my family's company owns controlling interest, he murmured. I was hoping it wouldn't come to this. Graham's face blanched. You're bluffing. Nathan lifted a single brow. Try me. The guards hesitated. Then, in unison, stepped back. The room erupted again, murmurs, whispers, phones lifting higher, reporters filming from behind champagne towers. Graham's composure cracked down the middle. He pointed at Claire. She's harassing me. She forged documents. No, Claire said, taking her strike. Her first strike. She lifted a small black microphone. Hannah had slipped it to her minutes earlier. The audio connected directly to the ballroom's sound system. Her voice echoed across the chandelier-studded room. Graham Whitmore forged my signature. He stole my identity to facilitate illegal financial transfers through Argent Capital. Silence fell like a guillotine. Graham's eyes went wide. Turn that off. But Claire wasn't done. She turned to the crowd. Her hands didn't shake. Her voice didn't waver. For over a year, I've been the scapegoat in his funneling scheme. He used my personal documents, my social security number, my signature without my knowledge. And when he feared exposure, he tried to paint me as unstable so no one would believe me. Camera phones were up. Everyone was recording. Claire wasn't powerless anymore. She was undeniable. Graham lunged toward her, but Nathan intercepted him like a wall. You're finished, Nathan whispered. But Claire, she wasn't finished. She stepped closer to Graham, her voice soft enough only he and the closest guests could hear. "You told everyone I was fragile," she said. "You made me look weak. You lied about who I was." Graham's breath shook with fury. "And now," Claire continued, "I'm telling the truth about you." She pressed a button. A second audio clip played through the ballroom speakers. Graham's voice, recorded in his office. "If she talks, we bury her. She's fragile. No one will believe a word she says." Gasps. Screams. Journalists surged forward, capturing every second. Graham spun toward Claire, eyes blazing with panic. "Where did you get that?" Claire lifted her chin. "You gave it to me." Because he had. Through arrogance, through carelessness, through believing she'd always stay silent. Security, hotel security, Nathan's security began closing in now. On Graham. "You set me up," Graham shouted. "You're lying. You're all lying." But the cracks were too big now. Aubrey stepped forward, voice trembling but clear. "She's not lying. He forged my signature too." The room erupted again. Graham staggered back, looking around for someone, anyone to believe him. No one did. Bold cliffhanger. And then, above the chaos, a calm voice rose, a board member stepping forward. "Mr. Whitmore, we need to speak with you immediately." The board member's voice cut through the ballroom like a judge's gavel. "Mr. Whitmore, we need to speak with you, now." The room stilled. All the glitter, the champagne, the polite pretenses, it all evaporated under the sharp, ice-cold authority in the man's tone. His name was Edward Langford, chairman of Argent Capital's board. Older, composed, impeccably dressed. A man whose word could end careers with a signature. Graham froze. For the first time all evening, Claire saw real fear flicker in his eyes. Not the arrogant paranoia he used to justify destroying her, but genuine, unfiltered fear. Now?" Graham sputtered. "We can discuss this privately, Edward. This isn't the time or place." Edward lifted one hand. "It is absolutely the time and place." Gasps spread through the crowd like sparks. Two other board members approached, Marilyn Cho and Victor Reynolds. Heavyweights, the kind of people who rarely showed emotion. But tonight, their expressions were carved from stone. Marilyn looked at Claire. "Miss Whitmore, we heard the recording. Is there more?" Claire nodded once. "Yes." Julian stepped forward with a tablet. "We have emails, transaction logs, voicemails." Edward turned to Graham. "Is there anything you'd like to say before we review this evidence?" Graham's face twisted. He still tried to smile, his favorite mask. "This is a smear campaign. She's my ex-wife. She's vindictive. Nathan Hale is interfering. They're conspiring." Nathan chuckled under his breath. "That's the best you've got?" Graham snapped. "Stay out of this, Nathan." "Can't," Nathan said calmly. "You dragged me into it the moment you targeted Claire." But Edward wasn't done. "Mr. Whitmore," he said coldly, "your assistant informed us earlier that there were inconsistencies in your authorizations. Now we have Miss Whitmore's testimony, the recording, and a second victim confirming forged documents." He looked at Aubrey. She flinched. "Miss Lane," Marilyn said gently, "do you confirm that your signature was used without consent?" Aubrey's voice was barely a whisper. "I confirm." The room erupted in whispers: shock, betrayal, disbelief. Graham's jaw dropped. "Aubrey, you stupid child. You don't know what you're doing." Aubrey backed away, trembling. Mira stepped protectively beside her. Claire felt a pang, unexpected compassion. Aubrey had once been her enemy, but now she was another casualty. Victor stepped close to Graham. "Effective immediately. You are suspended pending investigation." The words dropped like a bomb. Graham's face turned crimson. "You can't suspend me. This is my company." "It never was your company," Edward replied. "You were given power, and you abused it." Graham's mask shattered. He lunged toward Claire, pointing an accusing finger, spit visible at the corner of his mouth. "This is your fault. You ungrateful, pathetic." Nathan moved so fast the crowd barely saw it. He positioned himself in front of Claire. Voice calm but lethal. "One more word, Graham," he said softly, "and I'll personally escort you out of Manhattan." Security this time, the hotels closed in around Graham. Realizing he was outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and out of time, Graham turned his fury toward the board. "This isn't over," he snarled. "She has nothing. She's unstable. And yet," Marilyn interrupted, "she hasn't screamed once tonight." "You have." Gasps. And applause. Soft at first, then swelling. A wave of support rolled toward Claire. Women nodding. Men whispering to each other. People who once believed Graham now realizing the truth. Nathan touched Claire's elbow gently. "Are you okay?" She nodded slowly, but with strength. For the first time in years, she felt taller. Edward stepped forward again. "Miss Whitmore," he said firmly, "we would like to formally request your help in our investigation." Claire blinked. "My help? It appears you kept proof," he said. "You stood your ground. That makes you the only trustworthy person in this mess." Ahush fell. Graham's face contorted in rage. "You can't be serious. She's nobody. Edward didn't even look at him. "She is the reason we discovered the truth." Security placed hands on Graham's arms. "This is outrageous," he bellowed. "Claire, you'll pay for." Nathan stepped closer, glaring at him. "No. You will." Bold cliffhanger. As security dragged Graham away, his voice echoed through the ballroom. "If I go down, she goes down with me." And suddenly, all the lights in the ballroom flickered. The ballroom shuddered with a startled gasp as every chandelier flickered light dancing wildly across the gold-trimmed walls. For a moment, the plaza looked like something out of a dream or a nightmare, shadows stretching long and sharp. Claire felt her pulse spike. Nathan stepped in front of her again, eyes narrowing, scanning the room with military precision. "Everyone stay calm," he ordered. But calm was impossible now. Graham's voice, ragged, furious, echoed even as security dragged him backward. "You think this is over? You think you've won? You don't know what she's hiding. Claire's involved too." The words landed like grenades. Whispers spread. Phones lifted. People leaned in, eager for more destruction. Claire forced herself not to flinch. The chandeliers steadied. The lights returned. But the room remained electric, humming with tension. Edward Langford, the board chairman, signaled to security. "Get him out of here. Now." As Graham was pushed toward the exit, he twisted around, shouting over the crowd. "You forged that second account, Claire. Tell them. Tell them." Claire went cold. "Ali. Dangerously." The second account, the one she hadn't even known existed until Nathan showed her. Nathan stepped forward sharply. "Enough." But Clara lifted a hand, stopping him. "No," she said softly. "Let him talk." Graham blinked, thrown. "Excuse me?" "Lace." Claire's voice carried across the ballroom, steady as glass, sharp as truth. "You want to know what I'm hiding?" she said. "Fine." The room hushed. Graham froze, eyes widening not in confidence, but fear. Claire walked to the center of the ballroom and slowly turned to the crowd. "I'm hiding the fact," she began, "that for years I helped build Graham's career. I fixed his mistakes. I protected him. I covered for him. Not because I was complicit, but because I believed he would change." A murmur rippled through the guests. Claire continued, her voice gaining strength. "I'm hiding the fact that I begged him to get help when he started losing control. That I found texts, lies, behavior that terrified me. But I still stayed, because I thought love could fix a man who only wanted power." Nathan watched her with quiet pride. Julian whispered, "She's captivating the whole room." Claire's hands trembled, but she didn't try to hide it. "I'm hiding the fact that when he forged my signature, I blamed myself. I thought maybe I deserved it. That maybe I was the failure he said I was." A sharp collective inhale. Even the reporters lowered their cameras, stunned by the naked honesty. "But the truth?" Claire said, lifting her chin. "I was never his weakness. I was his shield. And when I finally broke, he thought he could use my silence to cover his crimes." She held up the folder of evidence Mira had placed it into her hands moments earlier. "These documents," she said, "prove every lie, every transfer, every signature he stole, every account he created under my identity. And here," she pressed a button on her phone. A new audio clip filled the speakers. Graham's voice again. Not angry this time. Not yelling. Calm. Smug. Cold. "It doesn't matter what she finds. Claire's too fragile to fight back. She'll fold. And if she doesn't, I'll make sure she disappears. Gasps erupted. Aubrey covered her mouth, tears in her eyes. Julian swore softly. Mira whispered. Got him. Security stopped dragging Graham. The board stared at him, horror dawning. Edward turned slowly. Mr. Whitmore. Care to explain? Graham's face drained of all color. This is illegal. This was recorded without. Nathan stepped forward. You committed a felony, Graham. Several, actually. Your threats are admissible. Marilyn crossed her arms. And so are the forged authorizations. Claire spoke again, quiet. Final. You didn't just destroy your career. She looked him in the eyes. You destroyed yourself. Graham opened his mouth. No words came out. Bold cliffhanger. And then, from the far end of the ballroom, a detective stepped forward with a badge raised. Graham Whitmore? We have a warrant for your arrest. 1. The detective's voice sliced through the ballroom like the final crack of a judge's gavel. Graham Whitmore, you are under arrest for identity fraud, falsifying financial documents, misuse of corporate funds, and targeted harassment. Gasps rippled through the room. The orchestra stopped mid-note. Champagne flutes trembled in shocked hands. For a moment, Graham didn't move. He stood frozen, eyes wide, chest heaving, sweat shining under the chandelier light. His perfectly tailored suit looked suddenly too small for him. His mouth opened in a desperate attempt to reclaim dignity, power, control, but nothing came out. The detective stepped forward. Sir, turn around. Hands behind your back. No, Graham shouted, voice breaking. You don't understand, this is a setup. Claire is manipulating all of you. I'm the victim. Claire didn't flinch. Not anymore. She stood still, expression calm, watching the man who had once dictated her every thought unravel before the world. Graham's eyes darted around the ballroom, searching for allies, believers, anyone who still saw him as the untouchable CFO. But all he found were warped reflections of himself in the polished marble floors. Alone, exposed, finished. Security from the plaza surrounded the detectives, forming a silent ring. The board members stepped back, their faces etched with disappointment and fury. Aubrey moved closer to Claire, voice trembling. He's really going down. Claire nodded gently. Yes. Aubrey wiped a tear. I didn't think it would happen. I thought he was too powerful. No one is too powerful, Claire said. Just too protected. Nathan placed a steady hand against her back, not possessive, just grounding. You did this. Claire exhaled a shaking breath. We did. 1. The fall. As the detective secured Graham's wrists, he thrashed violently. You can't do this. I am Argent. I built this company. Edward Langford stepped forward, adjusting his glasses calmly. You misused what we entrusted you with. You didn't build Argent. Argent built you. The ballroom erupted in murmurs. Graham lunged toward Claire, but the officers yanked him back. Still, his eyes locked onto hers, burning with venom. You think this is justice? He spat. You think you won? You're nothing, Claire. Nothing. Claire tilted her head slightly. No, she said softly. I was nothing when you needed me to stay silent. Now I'm simply telling the truth. The room applauded. Not loud, not chaotic, but steady, powerful, a recognition of her strength. Graham stumbled as the detectives pulled him toward the exit. Reporters swarmed, cameras flashing like lightning. Microphones thrust forward. Mr. Whitmore, is it true you forged your wife's signature? Did you threaten to make Claire disappear? Did you steal funds through multiple accounts? Are you connected to the unregistered transfers? Graham snapped. Shut up, shut up, shut. His voice cracked as he was shoved through the doors, disappearing into the chaos of flashing cameras and rising sirens. The man who once shaped Claire's entire world was now a headline. A criminal. A cautionary tale. Aftershock. Silence lingered after he was gone. A strange, heavy silence like the calm after a storm, when you're still checking if the walls are standing. Aubrey exhaled shakily. Claire, I don't know how you did it. I would have collapsed. Claire looked around the ballroom at the cameras, the stunned faces, the glittering chandeliers. I've collapsed before, she said gently. But I didn't stay there. Mira stepped closer, wiping a tear she tried to hide. You gave every woman in this room a reason to breathe. Julian nodded. And half the men, too. Claire let out a soft, shaky laugh. Nathan watched her. Really watched her. Proud. Admiring. Quietly moved. You stood in the fire, he said, and didn't burn. She met his eyes. I burned, she whispered. I just learned to walk through it. Bold cliffhanger. But just as Claire thought the night was finally over, the detective returned holding an evidence bag. Miss Whitmore, he said, we found something in Graham's car. You need to see this. The detective held the evidence bag with both hands, as though it contained something volatile, something capable of detonating the moment it was seen. Miss Whitmore, he said carefully, this was found in the trunk of Graham Whitmore's vehicle. We need you to confirm whether it belongs to you. Claire felt the entire ballroom tilt for a moment. Inside the clear plastic bag was a single object. Her old passport. The one she thought she lost last year. The one she tore the apartment apart looking for. The one Graham told her she must have misplaced. Claire's breath left her body all at once. Oh my God, she whispered. That's mine. Then you need to see the inside, the detective said grimly. He unsealed the bag, flipped the passport open, and handed it to her. Claire's hands shook as she took it, her fingers brushing the familiar blue cover, her picture staring back at her. But then she froze. A page near the back had been altered. Stamped. Signed. Not hers. A signature that matched the one forged on the financial documents. Stamped with flights she never took. Destinations she never visited. Dates that aligned with the fraudulent transfers she'd just exposed. Mira gasped behind her. Julian covered his mouth. Aubrey whispered, he was setting up an escape plan, or framing you for one. Nathan stepped closer, his presence grounding her. Claire, he said softly, look at me. She did. His eyes were steady, but furious in a way she'd never seen before, rage not aimed at her, but for her. He intended to use this, the detective explained quietly, to claim you fled the country after committing fraud. With this passport, he could argue you ran, that you disappeared. Claire's knees weakened. Nathan steadied her instantly. He was going to erase me, she whispered. Not just ruin my life. He wanted me gone permanently. A deep, trembling breath left her lungs as realization washed over her, cold, bitter, liberating. That's why he told Rachel I needed to disappear. Why he kept pushing me to settle quickly. Why he staged all those fights and called me unstable. Nathan nodded. He wasn't just destroying you. He was building a case for your disappearance. Mun. And if Aubrey hadn't cracked, Mira said softly, he would have succeeded. The detective continued. There's more. We found a second ID with your picture and a different name. He forged an identity trail. He was preparing to claim he had no idea where you went. Claire's stomach dropped. Her fingers curled around the passport. A lifetime of silence, manipulation, subtle cruelty suddenly sharpened into one horrifying truth. She had lived with a man who believed her life was disposable. Aubrey stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. Claire, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Claire didn't hate her anymore. How could she? Aubrey had been a pawn too. It's over, Claire murmured, her voice strangely calm. It's finally over. But Nathan looked at her with something deeper than relief. No, he said softly. It's not over. Not yet. Claire frowned. What do you mean? You don't just survive a man like Graham, Nathan said. You rebuild everything he tried to destroy. Your name, your career, your future. His voice lowered, gentle, reverent. And you decide what comes next. For the first time in years, Claire felt a weight lift, not slowly, not gradually, but all at once. Like stepping out of a burning building and realizing the air outside is safe to breathe. She closed the passport and handed it back to the detective. I'm done being afraid, Claire said. Whatever comes next, I'm ready. 1. She looked around the ballroom at the cameras, the faces, the whispers now filled with admiration instead of pity. For the first time, she wasn't surviving Graham's world. She was stepping into her own. Nathan watched her with quiet awe, as if seeing her fully for the first time. You walked through hell, he said, and somehow came out brighter. Claire allowed herself a small, real smile. That's what freedom looks like. Bold cliffhanger. But before the night could end, Edward Langford approached with an offer Claire never expected. Miss Whitmore. How would you like to join Argent Capital's leadership team? The ballroom had finally begun to settle, voices softening, cameras lowering, a slow exhale passing through the gilded air of the plaza. But Claire stood very still. Edward Langford's unexpected offer hanging between them like a chandelier about to drop. Join Argent Capital's leadership, she repeated, stunned. Edward nodded, eyes earnest and sharp. We need someone with integrity. Someone who sees truth where others see numbers. Someone who doesn't run from pressure even when the building is burning. It was burning because of him, Claire whispered. Edward stepped closer. And you walked straight through the flames. That's exactly why we need you. Mira beamed. Julian nearly choked on his champagne. Hannah squeaked. Even Aubrey gave a weak, hopeful smile. But Claire didn't answer. Not yet. Nathan stood to her right, quiet but present, waiting for her to breathe, to process, to choose. Claire inhaled deeply and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Possibility. Mr. Langford, she said gently. I appreciate the offer. Truly. But I can't join a company still bleeding from everything Graham did. Edward nodded slowly. We intend to rebuild with you. Nathan watched her carefully. He knew perhaps better than anyone that Claire wasn't someone who jumped at validation. She needed something else. Purpose. Let me think about it, she said softly. Edward smiled. Take your time, but don't take too long. We need people like you. He bowed politely and stepped away. The room loosened. Guests whispered her name with admiration. Reporters pointed lenses, not with hunger, but respect. For the first time, Claire wasn't the scandal. She was the story. Later that night, after the ballroom emptied, Nathan escorted Claire out through a private exit. The air outside was crisp, the Manhattan skyline stretching like a million tiny celebrations. He walked beside her, hands in his pockets, the hem of his coat brushing against hers. You did something extraordinary tonight, he said. Claire smiled faintly. I didn't feel extraordinary. You don't have to feel it to be it. They reached a quiet corner of Fifth Avenue. Yellow cabs passed. Snowflakes drifted from the night sky, soft, slow, like blessings falling from above. Claire looked up, watching them melt on her skin. It's strange, she murmured. I thought I'd feel empty after tonight. But I don't. I feel clean. Nathan's voice softened. You fought for your life, Claire. You reclaimed your name. That kind of healing leaves room for better things. She turned to him, heart fluttering unexpectedly. Better things? She echoed. Nathan stepped closer, not imposing, but inviting. His eyes held warmth she'd been starved of for years. Better people, he said. Better opportunities. Better love, if you want it. Her breath hitched. Nathan. He raised a hand not to touch her, but to give her space. This doesn't have to be answered tonight. You've rebuilt yourself piece by piece. You get to choose what comes next, not me, not Graham, not anyone. Claire's eyes softened. I want to choose something that's mine, something honest. Nathan nodded. Then choose slowly. Choose freely. A quiet moment passed, a slow, delicate pause in the middle of Manhattan. Then Claire spoke, her voice steady. I want dinner. Nathan blinked in surprise. Dinner? Yes. She laughed softly. Dinner. With you. No drama. No danger. Just two people breathing easier than they did yesterday. Nathan's answering smile was warm enough to melt the snow around them. I'd like that very much. Los. Months later, Claire didn't join Argent Capital. She didn't return to her old apartment. She didn't look back. Instead, she accepted a position as director of strategy at Hale & Rowe, working alongside Nathan professionally, respectfully, until both of them realized it was something more. They didn't rush. They didn't force anything. They let healing take the first step, and followed it. Tonight, as they left another board meeting together, Nathan reached for her hand, gentle, sure, grateful. Claire laced her fingers with his. Not because she needed saving, not because she was broken, but because she finally had room in her life for love that didn't ask her to shrink, love that saw her as equal, love that she chose. The city lights glowed around them as they walked. A new chapter, a new identity, a new life she built with her own hands. Claire Whitmore wasn't a victim. She was a survivor, a strategist, a woman reborn. And for the first time in years, she felt whole. And just like that, our story comes to an end. But you're still here with me, right? If you've stayed until this moment, it means something in Claire's journey touched your heart in its own quiet way. Maybe it reminded you of your own strength, the battles you fought silently, or the times you rose again when no one believed you could. Life isn't fair, and sometimes people hurt us in ways we never deserved. But as Marcus Aurelius wrote, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Claire's pain didn't stop her, it shaped her path. It pushed her into a version of herself she never knew she could become. And that's the message for all of us. Your scars are not signs of weakness. They are proof that you survived. Your past does not define you. What defines you is the moment you choose to stand up, again and again. If this story moved you, healed you, or reminded you of your own worth, don't leave quietly. Tap like, share this video with someone who needs strength today, and subscribe to stay with us on more journeys like this. We're in this together. Always.